Recording? Yeah. All right. So for my TED Talk, I did how attempting the 2017 Pacific Crest Trail taught me more about our human environmental relationship than any other experience. So for those of you who don't know, the Pacific Crest Trail is a trail that runs from Mexico to Canada along the mountain ranges of California, Oregon, and Washington State. And it runs approximately 2,650 miles, and it takes the average hiker about 5 months to sorry, 5 months to complete. So in 2017, my buddy Cody and I, there he is, decided to do the trail, and 2017 turned out to be one of the worst years to attempt the trail because the Sierra Nevadas got a record amount of snowfall, so which makes for potentially hazardous trail conditions. Cody and I knew this ahead of time. We didn't know the extent of what it could be, but we figured might as well give it a shot. We do it, we do it, we don't, we don't. We didn't have another opportunity. So we went for it. And so for the first 700 miles of the trail is all desert, mostly. And I don't want to say it's easy, but it was relatively easy compared to what was coming ahead. You were never too far away from a road or actual civilization. There was lots of trail magic when, excuse me, oh my gosh, when which is when strangers will just show up on the side of the road or a trailhead and give you free food, free beer, free Gatorade, water, whatever. Sometimes they'll even set you up in their house for a night if you need a place to stay. Some people would host parties. A lot of people hosted parties. I heard one hiker call it the world's longest bar crawl because he would just go from one town to the next, to one party to the next, and just have himself a good old time. And that's what a lot of people did this year. A lot of people just did this section, did that, and no fault to him. But upon entering the Sierras and Kennedy Meadows, which is considered the kind of the gateway into the Sierras, my buddy and I felt pretty confident. I mean, there were a lot of ups and downs for the first part of the trail, but nothing that we couldn't get through, and we felt healthy and strong, and thought that another 700 miles of the same thing wouldn't be bad at all. And we thought that we were ready for anything that the trail would throw at us. Boy, were we wrong. So to the left is what it was like in 2017, the amount of snow. And then to the right is what the Sierras would normally look like during the summer. Most of their snow gone. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. And so to the right is what we were hoping for, and to the left is what we got. And so it ended up being more like endurance mountaineering than anything else. And these are all pictures that we took. But I mean, at first it was a ton of fun. It was really exhilarating. We felt like badasses, to put it plainly. We never really did anything like this too much, but it was pretty brutal. I mean, we went from doing 20 miles a day easy to doing 8 to 9 brutal days. You're just slogging through snow. You can lose the trail easy because of the snow. Thankfully, we had our phones, which had GPS on them, so it was a lot easier to find the trail. We also had a map and compass in case our phones failed us. I mean, we were relatively prepared, but after a while, it takes its toll pretty fast. And there are a lot of people that weren't prepared, and there were a lot of people that had injuries. And there was an article in a magazine called "The Pacific Crest Trail is Super Dangerous This Year," written by Dan White, published June 16th of 2017. And the article talks about how Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park staff had to already do several medical evacuations by helicopter. There were several evacuations right here in Forster Pass, which is the first pass of the PCT and the highest point if you don't summit Mount Whitney. So then there was one incident where someone fell and punctured a lung. I believe there's another one where someone fell and pierced their leg open. Also, okay, and so Jack Haskell, the spokesperson for the Pacific Crest Trail, put out a statement saying that you really have to have the fitness and skills to do this kind of stuff safely, to really safely. And there were a lot of people that weren't necessarily that experienced on the trail, and that really, I mean, I guess you could say myself included. I was young, and I still am, but young and dumb, and full of energy, and I was loving it at first, and I was fit, and I thought I could, for the most part, it was pretty easy to handle, and but I really started to think why people are doing this. That, like, why do they feel the need to do this kind of thing? Why do I feel the need to do this kind of thing when it's clearly not the safest thing? It's clear what, like, how does that happen? How does the relationship between me and nature, how did it come to this? And so I really started to think about that with river crossings. River crossings were the worst part. If there weren't river crossings, it would not have been a big issue in the Sierras. I could live with slogging through snow and trying to find the trail, but river crossings are just downright dangerous. If you take a look at pictures from years previous to the 2017 year, you'll get some streams that just go up to your ankles. They're just little trickling streams that you can just kind of go through super easily. But this year they were roaring rivers, and what you usually had to do when you came on to these rivers, if there wasn't a log that you could just easily walk through, I mean, even then, if you fall, you're kind of screwed, but if you weren't hiking with somebody, you would wait. And even sometimes if you were hiking with somebody, you would wait for a larger group to come along. So if you decided that it was safe to cross, then you could, if somebody fell, you could link arms potentially and save that person, or you're more likely to be able to rescue somebody the more people that are there. And if the group deemed that it was unsafe to cross the river, then you would all have to either go upstream or downstream to find a safer route. And that's obviously easier and safer to bushwhack with more people, more experience, and so you don't get lost. And sadly, there were 2 casualties that year. 2 women, unfortunately, were swept down the river. The Pacific Crest Trail Association published a article talking about how Rika Morita and Jacui Wang, I hope I pronounced their names right, died in the Sierra Nevadas crossing rivers. And it was found that they were crossing these rivers alone. Nobody knew that what happened to them, and their bodies were found in a stream bed down from the crossing. And I remember one of them died in the South Fork of the Kings Canyon crossing. And I remember before I crossed that river, my buddy and I stopped, and we were like, "This is not safe." It was just, the force of the stream was so powerful that we we attempted it for like 10 seconds, and we're like, "No, this is not safe at all." And so we waited for some more people to show up, and we all grouped together and went upstream, which is super annoying. We had to bushwhack and go out of our way to find a place to cross, but we were safe. And just to find out that this lady would think that it'd be fine for her to cross this river alone is just kind of mind-boggling. So that got me thinking even more, like, why do we feel the need to interact with nature this way? What is driving us? Because this isn't something that we have to do to survive or anything like that. This is something that we're doing for enjoyment, you know? And the fact that a lot of us feel pressured or the desire to do this kind of thing to prove ourselves is kind of silly. And so I'm going to refer to a book called Mountains of the Mind. It's a book written by Robert McFarlane, and it's essentially talks about man's relationship with, and the history of man's relationship with this kind of environment. And he talks about that in the 17th century, mountains would used to be referred to as warts or boils upon the land, just essentially useless things that were only there as a hindrance of us. They're just barriers. You can't grow anything there. There's nothing there for people, really. And people don't start exploring mountains really until the late 18th century. And he chalks a lot of this up to it was mostly excuse me, I can't talk, Europeans, because of Christianity played a huge part in it, because Christians didn't believe that there was no sort of God hidden away in the mountainous regions. God's not on earth, so there's no powerful being hidden away in these desolate places. So people got curious and really started to want to explore them, and eventually it kind of morphed into this daredevil pursuit that has just evolved into something that man feels, something else that man feels like he needs to conquer. Obviously, you could just look at the history from the summiting of Everest and the in the 50s to now, and now what it's become, this whole hiking culture thing has blown up. Instagram, people just kind of want to prove themselves outdoors more than ever. And it's kind of a bizarre relationship, really, between ourselves and this environment, because we really think that, I think there's a lot of people that think that there's meaning, that there's real meaning in salvation in the wilderness and in these kinds of environments. And I was one of those people. I thought, I love the wilderness. I still do, but I would look at the mountains as something like divinely profound. Just that being immersed in them is something that's like a calling or something like that. And while I'm having a great time doing experiencing or attempting this trail, I really came to realize that a lot of that's kind of bullcrap. And mountains are being outdoors is fun. Being in the mountains is healthy. It's exciting. It's beautiful. It's all of those things. But trying to find meaning or salvation in nature in itself is just a fool's errand. And really, I mean, apart from the excitement and the beauty of it, I guess, is there's really nothing in it. And that there's really, no real meaning is found in nature. Only human love and connection can bring meaning. And that these outdoor pursuits are, while they're a great time, that's not something that's worth losing your life over, or it's not worth killing yourself or injuring yourself over. And I think sayings like, whether you think you can or can't, you're probably right. While that saying is mostly a very true saying, if you apply it to certain people in certain landscapes, it's kind of asinine to say something like that, because when it comes to experiencing the outdoors, you really need to be honest with yourself. It's not just about ambition, because nature doesn't care about your ambition. Nature's nature. It's a rough bitch. And if you're not honest with yourself about your abilities, not to like not knock yourself down or second guess yourself, but you really need to be self-aware of what you can do. So yeah, I think people, before attempting risky things in the outdoors, really need to have a hard look at what they can and can't do, and not, try to abide by some sort of pressure or prove themselves to other people or compare themselves to other people on social media. I think it's really just about, having fun out there, and that's it. Anything else is just kind of stupid. So in closing, so our PCT hike ended in Mammoth Lakes, which is considered the beginning of the end of the Sierras. Long story short, my buddy and I got in a fight, and we parted ways. And I didn't want to really continue doing this kind of thing, because there's still a lot of dangerous river crossings ahead. And even though you could group together with people, sometimes you get to a river crossing and you're going to wait a while if there's anyone that's going to come along. And I just didn't think it was worth it. I thought that I'd just go back in another year and finish the rest of it. And I also hadn't started college yet, so I figured I should start my life instead of just running around hiking mountains. So it was a great experience. I don't regret it at all. As soon as I get a chance to go back and finish it up, I definitely am. But it definitely gave me an appreciation and a respect for the wilderness that I didn't have before. And anyway, my TED Talk. Hope you enjoy it. Peace.